Christie, his painting.
Yeah.
Place for that. Painting anyway.
Right. Folks, we'll get started in a few minutes. I'll just let people fill out their name tags over there.
This is wonderful.
Oh, so glad you're enjoying it.
Well,
Sit right in front of someone. How are you?
yeah.
Fair to middling. Over there is Sig Herman's. See the horse? Sig Herman with the brayer. Yeah. So, but it was. Yes, he did. How are you? Try not to sit in front of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's been Of course, he would never cut this out there. I know. Too many people. Too many people in the audience. They did a nice job, as usual. They do. But because it's anyone, so.
All right, I'm going to get started. I know people will wander in as we go, but that will be fine. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Laura Reckford, Executive Director of the Falmouth Art Center. I think I know everyone here, though, so it's great to see you all. We are being recorded, thanks to Walter Knox, so that people who couldn't make it will be able to see this later, and even more important, for future people involved in the Art Center. We will have this video of people sharing memories, and that will be very nice. What's helped me through putting together this show and the show last year, which some of you may have seen, the Founders Show, is we have about 10 to 15 old scrapbooks going back to, with clippings going back to the early 60s. And in particular, there is, the first clipping is from 1962, and it says, many of you will know about the Falmouth Artists Guild because they've been around since the early 50s. So that's the reason we know that it started in the early 50s, because they didn't get their nonprofit status, 501c3, until 1966. And so that's why this year we celebrate the 60th anniversary from that date. But we know they started getting together about more than 10 years before that in the 50s. And just to give you sort of an agenda of what we'll do today is we did do a short video, a 7-minute video of the history of the Artists Guild to get people thinking about things. And I'll show that. We did that in honor of the 60th anniversary. We did that about a year ago or so because we had members in their 90s and we wanted to get them on film talking. So we will show that. And then some people who couldn't be here today have given me some things to read of their memories, so I'll do those. And then we'll turn it over to the audience. And in particular, I want to acknowledge having Jane Ali Heyerdahl here, who came all the way from Vermont. And she has, one of her children lives here, so she has family in Falmouth still. But she was the first paid manager of the Falmouth Artists Guild. Beginning in 1973, I believe.
Yeah,
and so that was a turning point to be able to pay someone because they were all volunteering up until that point. And what's great about reconnecting with Jane, it happened through the video because Jane happened to see the video, and because she was there during some of the things that happened in the video, she was able to correct, add nuance, clarification, and in particular, for the very important visit of the Empress of Japan, her first visit to the United States. They came to Falmouth in 1975, and while her husband, a biologist, went down to Woods Hole, she went to the Artists Guild because she was a watercolor painter. And so Jane put together a program for her along with board members and so forth, and it was such an exciting opportunity and really a different kind of event that Jane wrote everything down right after. And so she sent me the play-by-play of what happened. And so at a point in the video where you'll see Edie Bruce's son reading and Edie Bruce's other son thought that he was maybe reading a poem, Jane corrected, no, he is narrating a puppet show that my children are giving for the Empress. So that's how Jane and I reconnected with that correction. And by the way, if people see corrections in here that they need to make, I'm happy to take them, because I did write up 72 different little bios of everyone, and it's bound to be some problems, so feel free to let me know if you see anything that needs correction. So as I said, this is our 60th anniversary year, and for this show, I really wasn't sure how many pieces would come in, but the word got around, and so we did end up with 72 pieces, and about half of them are people who are still with us. The other half are people who have passed away, and many of our current members lent pieces to this show, including, I'll have to mention Dale Carroll Teal, who was the manager twice for the Guild in 81 to 86 and 94 to 2004, and really was so fond of many of the artists that she would attend the annual auction that the Guild has been doing since the 70s, and she would buy up pieces by artists she knew. So Dale lent about 15 pieces to the show, so very thankful to her and others who lent pieces to the show. And so I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to put the video on, which as I said is about 7 minutes, and that will get people thinking about memories. I've got a couple memories to share here, and then we'll go starting with Jane, and then we'll go around to the audience. So here we go.
Where do we begin? Standing there with a paintbrush. The first thing you do is dip it into paint and make a stroke. The Artists Guild was an invention. Angelo Cangiamilla was the first one to say that we should find a genuine studio that we could all paint in and paint with each other. Then he suggested we'll all chip in and pay for it. We met other people and started to rent the old poorhouse. And so we went through it and decided this was the place for us. And it was great painting there.
The Falmouth Art Center started as the Falmouth Artists Guild way back in the 1950s. The group of artists began meeting with a creative and talented painter named Angelo Cangiamilla. Artists would meet in the garage of his home in Falmouth Heights to paint and receive critiques and instruction. As the group got bigger, they began to meet in the town's recreation center on East Main Street in Falmouth. Next door to the rec center was a 200-year-old town-owned building called the Poorhouse. The Poorhouse served as the Falmouth Artists Guild home for more than 30 years.
My mother, Edith Bruce, was really involved in the Artists Guild for about 4 decades. She was often the president of the Artists Guild. She really was interested in having a place where artists could exhibit their work, where classes could be taught, where they could have curated art shows, which they had many. And one of the unique things about the building that my mom really always appreciated was that there was a tremendous amount of wall space. And as primitive as the building was, it was a perfect place for artists.
Being in the poorhouse was really an honor. I mean, it was such a great building.
Yeah.
There were so many nooks and crannies. There was the paper room, there was the rack room, there
The
was
craft
the
room.
craft room. The nice thing about the poorhouse is that we were allowed to really use a lot of space. I mean, I would say the maximum would be like our Thursday night, where we'd have the weavers going, we'd have class in the pottery studio, we'd have
The jewelry
jewelry
room.
room going, and we'd have
Class
painters.
upstairs and
So
downstairs.
there'd be like 4, so it'd be like, there's too much noise to be doing the painting because the jewelers are pounding on the, the stakes, and it got interesting.
The exhibits were really top notch. They really were. You know, you really had high competition with those exhibits. I mean, from Sig to Clyde Crony to Larry Jensen to.
What we were trying to do is really encourage a lot of the professional artists to exhibit.
The very first course that I took was with Beverly Edwards at the old poorhouse. And it was after dinner, because we were all working our 9 to 5s. And it was just enchanting. I fell in love with the place. It was like a place that artists should be, because it was tumbled down. It was like taking a boat across the Atlantic where if you put your foot in one place and you move, the floor has changed, because it was, old and rickety, and the floor slanted. And
Then we used to set up for our potluck suppers, like a restaurant, card tables everywhere with 4 tables and cloths on them. There was an annual costume party that everybody had fun and.
The big artists, everyone had ideas about how they were going to put their costumes on. It was like, oh my God.
I loved the poorhouse, this old wooden building. It was summertime, so of course without air conditioning, all the windows were open.
I had a studio in there. At nighttime I just put on my music, Sting or whoever, and go up there and paint and overlook Main Street, which was great, so it was quite the experience. I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything.
One unique moment in the Artists Guild's history was in 1975. This was when the Emperor and Empress of Japan made their only visit to the United States. The Emperor of Japan himself was a very distinguished biologist and wanted to come to Woods Hole and meet with scientists there that he had known and corresponded with. The community had to find a compatible place for the Empress of Japan so she could be entertained, and they chose the Falmouth Artists Guild. We all had to really put together something for her that we thought would be entertaining and amusing. My brother, I think he was reading a poem to the Empress of Japan, and it was very nicely choreographed so that she could be there while her husband was here at Woods Hole.
The town had told the guild that you have to be out of the poorhouse, but you'll be back in 6 months. It was because the town was afraid that the building was going to fall down. Plan was to fix it up and turn it back to the guild. The 6 months went by, years went by.
And then we had to deal with a Flatley company at the Falmouth Mall. One of the stores had left, and there was this huge open space. So we had most of our classes there because it was monstrous. Basically, the office space was the rec center, and then we had the Falmouth Mall for classes, workshops, and some exhibitions. And then we had FCTV for exhibitions as well as other locations around town. Those were our 3.
I started getting involved with the auctions after we got out of the poorhouse. The auction would be in the summer. We do a lot of advertising. We go around and solicit all the businesses on Main Street to support us, which they did. We would request from maybe 50 or 60 people. And we'd meet at Peg Noonan Park and had one or two there, and then we started meeting at the Congregational Church for a number of years, and then we met at St. Barnabas Church. We get a good auctioneer, and we sell those paintings.
And at that point, Agatha East she must have been president. She just made an executive decision and said, okay, enough is enough. That's how we ended up in the basement.
And we had our wonderful place on Main Street, and I put quotation marks around wonderful, because it was in the basement. And every time it rained, we had to run around and get our paintings off the floor, because it would literally just pour in. And Danny would run around and get sandbags, would pile those out.
The parking lot was a dirt parking lot, and one day I came in there, and I opened the door, and it was flooded. I mean, sculpture stands were floating around. There were this woman from New York who had this doll, $1,000 doll, was face down in the middle of the room, floating. I was gonna walk out. I mean, the water was up to here.
People would just drop in. It reminded me of an old country store in a small town where, people would just come, they'd pull up a chair, Danny would come in and do the crossword puzzles, and people would just sit and chat.
At the time, everyone was really mad at the town. They've been stringing us along for years. It was a gift in disguise. My husband looked at over 100 buildings over the next couple of years, and he identified this piece of land, which was empty at the time, as a suitable place, called the then owner, Chris Wise. Chris was inclined to help a cultural organization, and he would say that right up front because of his wife and mother. So the stars aligned. In the meantime, we got two big anonymous gifts. One was $500,000 and the other was $300,000. And so we had some money that we could live on. In worst case scenario, we could build the basement and cover it over and wait until we got more money. And we had a groundbreaking. It poured rain, absolutely poured rain. People were so happy to be starting construction, they didn't care. And a couple of weeks later, we got the news that we got a new state grant. The key to being able to do it was breaking it into stages. And Arthur Vidal, he cared. He cared about Falmouth, he cared about us. He was a little dubious of the ditzy, kind of flaky artist, but he delivered. So we started construction, we were finished in May, first floor only, and unfinished basement, and completely unfinished second floor.
Really, the only studio space was the first floor classroom. And at one point, classes were being held in there, in the Hermann Gallery, and in the frontal hallway. So it was really quite a problem. And fundraising began, and it took a while to raise the money for the second level. Had the design completed, and Arthur Vidal, again, with V&V Construction, completed the upper level.
The organization boomed. It just grew like topsy, build it and maintain.
It truly is a community art center. It is a place where anyone of any age, from 4 to 101, who's interested in art can come here and enjoy it.
One of the wonderful things about the Art Center is that it's truly a community organization. And because it is, we can show work and we respect and honor the work of community members at all levels. There's no phony here. And it's welcoming to a diverse population. In fact, we reach out to a diverse population.
The place is so vibrant. People come in here and they're just amazing. So even people that lived in town that have never been here, that we're free and we're open, and everybody is so warm coming in here and very inviting.
I think it's the most impactful thing that I have done. When I come here, it makes me proud to see this building and all the people enjoying it.
That video was done by Brian Switzer, who does a wonderful job doing videos. Okay. And so you can see that was just a sort of a summary, touching on some of the high points, and we can get into some specifics during this session. But I did get a couple of memories that people who couldn't make it today wanted me to read. And the first one is from Joan Watkins. Do people remember Joan Watkins? Yes. So Joan's still here in Falmouth. And she said that in 1973 she moved to Falmouth, often driving by the Artists Guild, and I would think how nice it would be to learn painting and pottery. I would wonder if it was a guild, did it mean that everyone associated there would be advanced artists? So I didn't sign up for quite a while. She says, jobs in Falmouth in the early 70s were difficult to find, so I had a few part-time jobs on Main Street. One was next to the fence rail, was Dornley's gift shop, working on weekends and holidays. At the time, I thought I would venture into the Poorhouse Artists Guild. After doing that and talking to a nice lady there who did pottery, I decided to join the beginner's pottery class to learn how to throw pots. The woman in charge of the pottery was Helen Jacobson, some might know her as Helen Keller. At this time, the wheels weren't all working, so she suggested I take a hand building course. I reluctantly signed up, thinking I already did this back at grammar school. Well, Helen was just what a beginner needed to learn about clay. I got a lot out of Helen's classes. She was a great pottery teacher. We became great friends. From 76 to 77, she says Helen wanted the guild to be better suited to have pottery classes in a room with counters to work on and places for the few working wheels, so she asked if I would help her with this project. We put counters in with the help of Mike DePonte's sawing all the wood for us, and we even replaced the ceiling, which was falling in some places. The young man living upstairs helped tear out some of the old walls. I was amazed we were able to do all this, but it was a huge improvement. Anne Ray Neal, her daughter is here today, was at the desk at that time with a young man from the service living in the room upstairs, and Edie Bruce was president. In 76, 77, after Helen left, Edie asked me if I would teach a class. I accepted and ran to the library to ask for many different books about pottery. The library said they would purchase any books I needed, as it would be an asset to their readers interested in pottery. I had been asked to teach the senior citizens class at the house next to the Catholic church up the street. I asked if the seniors could come to learn throwing at the guild, so it was allowed. They had a wonderful time at the classes at the senior center, but throwing at the Artists Guild was what they really wanted to do. You can imagine the clay being thrown quite a distance. We all laughed so hard at this. Then the Falmouth schools had a program for students called Falmouth Out of School program. Many wanted to be potters. They enjoyed the clay classes, and most wanted to make wind chimes. You can only imagine how many little pieces were made, which all had to go back to the student who made them. I served on the board of directors of the Guild as the educational coordinator for evening classes, and was appointed by the Board of Selectmen as a member of the Artists Council for the town of Falmouth. I left the Artists Guild for a full-time job for the town of Falmouth. While there in the selectmen's room, I thought was very interesting. While they're in the selectmen's room, they were talking about the new police station and how the poorhouse should be torn down so people could see the police station. Knowing I had worked at the Guild, they asked me about it. I told them they were the first ones who gave me a job when I was looking, and it turned out to be a very pleasant experience with a great number of people who cared about creating and seeing art. Then I called Edie Bruce to tell her about the selectmen's ideas. Later I learned she invited all the selectmen to an opening and made them honorary Falmouth Artists Guild members. All the selectmen were very enthusiastic from their experience, saying how nice the show was. I think they were so impressed I never heard them talking about tearing it down from that point on. So those are Joan Watkins' memories. And I think we'll go right to Jane to share some memories now, and can come up here, and we do have a microphone if people have trouble hearing, so we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes, yes. Some of you I recognize. I knew you way back when. I was the first paid manager that they had when I went to the Artists Guild for the first time. They had a payphone back in the kitchen. I had a desk at the front door. That was it. I was brought on in order to open the Guild on a regular basis. Before that, it was just volunteers, which those of you who may have been there remember. Thank goodness for those volunteers. The heart of all of it goes to Edie. She was the one who, like I said, she was the heart and soul. From the time she started all the way through. She brought me on there as well. The things that happened while I was there then, we started the Monday Painters, which are still going on, I understand. I see one of the gentlemen painting over here that says he is now doing the Monday Painters. We started the art auctions out in the backyard, behind the Guild at that point in time. We had fashion shows at the Nimrod, which is no longer there, of course, and many of you, I'm sure, know what I'm talking about when I say the Nimrod with the cannonballs and the war from 1812, still in the wall. What else? The visit from the Empress of Japan. That was an interesting time for me because I was the manager. They decided, meaning the Japanese embassy, decided that I was the one in charge. Everything went through me. I had no choice in that. A lot of people resented that, but that's the way it was. I had to do it. They even called me on vacation in Wisconsin to ask if there was a restroom on the first floor that the Empress might be able to use. So I was in charge. And like you said in the video, my two of my children, put on a puppet show for her. They had to make a choice. She was running out of time. She got hung up in the pottery room watching the clay. She loved that. They sent my husband in to get her out of the pottery room because she was running out of time. They had to be back at the airport before the Empress finished and was home, or the Emperor. So he went back and got her, and she came out, and then she had to make a choice, or a choice had to be made. There were children upstairs drawing, and there was the puppet play. And the Secret Service made the decision that she would go to the puppet play instead of going upstairs. But when she left, she shook the hand of every one of those children out in the front walk as she left. And we had been told, you do not touch the Empress of Japan, period. And so we are, here we are, and they had put me in the front of the line, which, again, I was supposed to be at the back. Malcolm Park was the president, Vivian Dreisbach, Edie Bruce, and so on. They put me in the front and said I was to guide her through the Guild. So here we are, standing looking at a painting, I'm going like, no, looking over here, and I realized she's looking over here.
Yes.
So I went over
She
and I
moved
thought,
her.
I'm touching the Empress. I expected Secret Service down my back, but they didn't. And she was fine. She liked it. She was no problem at all. She was a delightful lady. The gifts that they gave at the end of that visit, 2 dolls that are, I believe, still at the library. I don't know. Because the Guild did not have a proper place to display them, they lent them to the library. And you tell me, I haven't been to the library in many years, if they're still there or not. I got a lovely compact, silk and gold, and the press, Japanese press, gave me a gift as well. Trying to find a lobster dinner for 40 Japanese press 20 minutes before the Empress is due to arrive. I called, I can't remember which one now, anyhow, down on the harbor. And they said, oh yes, they could do 40 lobster dinners, but did I want them cooked? So I left them, went to another restaurant, the one down at the end of the street by the old poorhouse, way down on the harbor. They did it. They had lobster dinners for 40 people ready when they got there.
The regatta, maybe?
Yes, no, not even the regatta.
Oh, Flying Bridge?
No, the Flying Bridge is where they wanted if I wanted them cooked, yes.
Okay.
And it was an exciting time. But like I said, there was a lot of resentment then by some, because they felt I had overstepped my role as just the manager. That's the way it was. But the things that went on there, the classes that were taught, the people. I said, Monday Painters, Edie organized a week-long trip to Kennebunkport to go and paint. And we would go for the whole week, a whole bunch of us, cooking, painting all day, coming back, taking turns cooking, playing games at night. It was phenomenal. We also went for a week on Block Island. Another time we went to the Bahamas. Joan Donlan here was one of the people that was in the Bahamas with us. It gave me more than just a job as a manager. Working beside people like Edie, Sig, Claude, on and on. There are so many to name, too many to name. You can't help but absorb what they have to give. And they were all so willing to give as well. I ended up being able to teach 20 years at Cape Cod Community College, teaching watercolor there, because of my beginning with the Guild. I was a crafts person before that. I still do a lot of crafts, but the painting came here. I love what has happened here. I was given a lovely tour of the whole building yesterday, and to keep that going is so, so important. Anyone who does anything with their hands, keep it going. Whether it be painting or jewelry or pottery or weaving or whatever, do it. The necklace I'm wearing was made by our oldest son. Classes here at the Guild in silver. He won 2 Boston Globe Awards. Silver here at the Guild. Keep it going. Don't ever let it die. I really don't have anything else to add to that. Just do it.
Thank you,
I
Jane.
love it.
Who wants to go next? And you can stay at your seat and talk from there or come up here. Anyone else have? Jory, do you want to say something about your mother? Sure. Okay. We're hitting the managers in order here because after Jane was Jory's mother, Anne Ray Neal, was the manager from 1976 to 1981. And so I know she put together some words about that.
I just wish my mom could see this building now and how much it's grown. She'd be so proud. You know, it's just amazing from the poorhouse. What a difference. Before becoming the director of the Falmouth Artists Guild, my mother, Anne Ray Neal, had been rather shy and reserved. But while having this opportunity, her confidence blossomed, and she developed deep, lifelong friendships. No matter what she was doing, when someone walked into the door at the old poorhouse, they were always greeted with genuine warmth. I still remember her talking about all of her artist friends: Sig Perwin, Charmaine Hayes, Edie Bruce, Jean and Bill Adelman, Jan Selman, Jerry Moriarty, and those are the just ones that I just remembered, just from her talking about them. If she was visiting me, she always had to leave early to make sure she didn't miss Monday Morning Painters, nor the Friday Figure Group. The Guild impacted the direction of both of our lives. I remember at age 14 taking silversmithing classes in the basement with my cousin Kitty. I was always so impressed by the art openings, which were filled with lots of amazing artwork, mutual support, laughter, cool clothes, and of course, wine. Anne Ray's father was the infamous John R. Neal, Royal Illustrator of Oz. He illustrated the series of the first 34 volumes of Oz by Frank L. Baum, and later authored 3 of them. This set up an incredibly high bar that she thought she could never attain. I think this pushed her to keep learning, taking workshops, and traveling for plein air paint outs. She went to Syracuse University and studied fine art. After graduation, she lived in New York City, and her first job was coloring black and white photographs. It wasn't until her late 50s, however, and having had 6 kids, that she finally had time to devote to her own artwork. So her job at the Guild was the perfect place to call home. She soon began framing and selling her own work, and had a number of solo exhibitions. I graduated from art school, but felt like a bit of a black sheep by going into advertising and becoming a commercial art director. A few years later, Mom surprised me by inviting her to join her for a 5-day pastel workshop with master pastelist Albert Handel. It remains the most exciting workshop I ever attended, and I am a bit of a workshop junkie now. Then, 23 years ago when Mom passed, I inherited all of her art supplies and vast art library, but I couldn't bring myself to touch them. My mourning was very deep. I didn't start painting again until 21 years ago when I took a pastel class with Donna Rossetti Bailey, and I remembered Mom's words. Someday, Jory, you will have time to do your own artwork, and you will be great. Of course, she was my mom and my biggest advocate, so I don't know about being great, but I do know that becoming a painter and being involved in a vast art community is the most fulfilling thing in my life, too. I now teach pastel painting at the Falmouth Art Center and love every minute of it. So the circle continues, and being involved with other artists is one of the greatest gifts we can all share.
Thank you, Jory. And Jory has gotten into a number of juried shows here, so she's an excellent artist. Dale, I don't know if you want to hop up since you had your say in the video. You had your say. So then we'll just open it up to who wants to share some memories. I know Vicki was there in the weaving program near the beginning.
Yeah, I can't remember what year it was that Jane hired me for a summer exhibit on Queens Byway. Remember that?
Golly, that's back in the craft studio.
Yeah. Oh, that was the craft studio.
That was the craft studio on Queens Byway.
So that was before.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I did remember what the because it was all crafts.
Yeah. I actually brought the craft studio to the Guild for 2 years after the craft studio closed, when they finally, I gave it 2 more years and then it died. And then yes,
Sort of was absorbed.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just for the summer, because there was no heat in that back room. But yes,
And I learned weaving from Fran Dandridge, whose
yes.
rug is back there. The interesting thing about her was she had her, I think it was her left arm terminated right here.
Yes.
And so when she was warping, she would grab the warp in her left hand and
Yes.
do the rest. She was quite spectacular.
I ended up with her full floor loom.
Oh.
I don't have it anymore, but I did do a lot of weaving on that loom as well.
Yeah, it was, and there were, I don't remember how many looms we had. There were quite a few, and they were big ones.
Big floor looms, yeah.
Great, thank you for that. Betty, did you want to add anything? Because you...
Oh, well, I moved to Falmouth in the mid-'70s, and I got a job at the Almax Frame Shop, and that's where I met a lot of artists to begin with. And I would cut masks for Cliff Stubbs and Wesley Lazat and even Ian Ray, and I also had a few pieces I showed at the Artists Guild over the years. And I also met, some of my dearest friends through the Artists Guild, like Kathy Zins Twombly and some of the other painters back in the day. It was like such a wonderful experience to get to know some of the, particularly some of the more serious artists. And Bud Carey and Kathy and I became great friends. And I'd love to see Russie White Waltman. She was a good friend too, before she moved away.
I knew I recognized you, but I couldn't think of your
I don't have a name tag on. I got here a couple minutes late. But anyhow, it was, I love the old poorhouse. This is beautiful too, don't get me wrong. But, that was like, I don't know, it was just so unique, I guess, and it was like, you could just see the work that people gathered to get that going in the first place, and so it kind of had those bones to it that, we're gonna do this no matter what kind of idea, and then it morphed into this. So it was really a nice experience back in the day. So Paulette Loomis was another very good friend.
Yes.
I have her jewelry on.
Oh, you're right.
Edna Coney Bear and I were great friends.
Yeah.
I did all her framing too. And Anne Ray, it was funny because she worked at the Market Barn Gallery for a while. And with Bill and Carol, Carolyn in the Market Bookstore. And so I remember one time, I used to kind of rescue people too. One time she had put some stuff behind her car, and then she started to back, this was a typical image, she started to back up and she knocked them over, and they broke the frame or something, the glass in it. So she came rushing to it out, you to fix this? I said, oh, no problem. But we got a big kick out of that. Artists are very, kind of discombobulated sometimes, so I totally related to it, So that was kind of a funny thing. And Bud Carey, he was another one. He was just a great friend, but he couldn't leave paintings alone. So I would frame his stuff in these lovely wood frames and cut the mats and everything. A lot of his paintings were painted on both sides too. So I'd even sometimes put glass on both sides so you can see both of them. Make it a double frame. You can flip it up. But he kept taking them apart to do something, and then he'd fix it himself, and the mat would be crooked, and there'd be fingerprints on the thing, and then he'd tell everybody I framed it. I'm thinking, and so I started putting the Nielsen metal frames on because I couldn't figure out how to take them apart. So that was how I saw it. But we were very dear friends. My daughter used to. And I met Bud one time when I had a picture at one of the shows, that it was some abstract-y thing, show, and I was standing there and the person didn't know, and he was making some disparaging remarks about my painting, and Bud looks at me and goes, I think it's wonderful. So I said, oh, Bud, thank you. Then we became great friends after that. So anyhow, I miss a lot of those people,
Very supportive community.
Yeah, very supportive.
Exactly.
And just a bunch of real interesting, eccentric people, that I loved.
And each unique and just totally.
And the Adelmans.
Yeah.
I mean, I found out that Bill Adelman, not only was he a good painter and scientist, he also was a competitive roller skater.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
You know, a renowned roller skater at the rinks, you know, he'd go do the tricks and everything. So,
Nice memories there.
yeah, so that
I'm
was,
sort of going around the room, so
Yes.
Doreen,
Yep.
do you want to share any memories?
Yes,
Oh, good.
I'm going to stand up because I don't like to talk. You might not hear me anyway if I have my back to you. I'm Doreen Kelly. I came to Falmouth in 1971, and I had always been very interested in painting. Started doing some at home, but when I was working, teaching first grade, I found I had more time. I was always correcting papers or doing other things like that. But finally, in 1973 or 4, I'm not sure, I was coming to Falmouth for the summers. And I found out there was the Monday Painters. And I had no chance. It was coming out of the poorhouse, but at that time, I could just do my summer work. And I painted with Edie Bruce, whom I absolutely love. And I have a couple of pictures of Edie. This is Goodwill Park. But I'll just pass them
oh, yeah, I love Edie.
Some of these are one of the interesting things was I used to wear my cutoffs and a tank top to paint. But all the ladies who were painting would wear something like this, a very long, like a house dress, but a little bit longer than what you would see. And I really got to know Edie pretty well, and I also knew Jane Hyderdall. And I loved it. I loved going out and painting every week. We go to a different place. But then at the end of the summer, and I know, Laura, you've heard this story. I tell this story a lot because everyone was going to Maine. And I kind of thought that's something they did every summer. But then Edie said, you really should go. You would love it. It's really wonderful. And a couple of the other women were encouraging me to go. And I said, I can't go. I teach first grade. You're going the first week of school.
That's right.
Can't you get any time off? They say. I said, no, not really. Not that, particularly not that week, that's for sure. That's when we get everybody started and all the routines and everything. And I always wished I could have gone because then I got to see some of the paintings that they did. And it just was such a wonderful thing. But I also have memories of the fence sale, I think it was called, with the paintings, and one of my neighbors went and thought it was so wonderful. She kept outbidding everybody. And I was going to call her and say, do you have any of those paintings? But you may or may not. You may have given them as gifts, I don't know. But it was a wonderful experience. And finally, I hooked up at the Artists Guild again when you were in the basement. So I have some experiences of the fun times down there. I took a couple of courses during the summer. I think there was a workshop that I enjoyed. And I was, of course, very interested when this Falmouth Art Center was getting built and all of the trials that everybody went through before that. But I was still teaching, and I only picked up a lot in the summer. But I guess it was around 19. Well, I retired in 2023, and I immediately started taking painting courses, and that was fun. And then I decided I would take a pastel course because I think there was not an oil painting course at that time. And I went to the pastel course, and everyone assured me, it's going to teach just the basic things, so it'll be good for you to get into this. And I brought my oil painting in, and I worked on it. And after about 3 weeks, I said, I love these pastels. They are so gorgeous. And I went out, bought the pastel stuff, and had a box about this big. Now I have all on my table, and it's thousands of pastels. But it sort of followed me all through my time here in Falmouth, and I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I've just enjoyed it. It's been terrific. So, in a way, thank you, Laura, and thank you to everybody who came before and did the hard work that brought us to today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Arden, did you want to say anything? You're all set. Jordy, did you want to say anything?
Just my mom, Lilia Holmes, really loved being part of the guild, and she loved the Monday Painters, and the more she did, the stronger she got, and her confidence got more built up. And it was lovely to see. It was really good to see all of that, and the friends that she made. Yeah, and going out to Ghost Ranch, and, yeah, it was a big trip. I remember your mother was in on that one with Jane Lincoln. Yeah, she did a lot with Jane Lincoln. Yeah, she was great. Yeah, she.
Thank you, Jordy.
I used to frame Lily's stuff too.
You used to
We
frame-
were great friends.
Oh,
My
good.
daughters were her library school aides.
All right, yes, yes. My mom was a librarian here,
Yes,
so.
yes, she was a great one too.
Kind of took her a while to get
Yeah.
into the swing of things, but after she retired, she really got going with her artwork.
She was lovely, so elegant.
Ruth, did you want to share
I
a
just
story?
want to mention Landy Landro. I didn't come until the very early 90s, and this has been the joy of my life. I had 5 children, and what we did is we were out west, and we left all our kids out there and came back here. So I knew that if I'd stayed out there, I would have been babysitting, but it didn't happen. So I came with just wanting to do pastels, because my grandmother had done them before me. And so I get to know all the pastel artists, really inspired and love them. Grace Sturgis was one, and I'd make friends with them. Lois Cohen, you know, so, and I'd make friends with them, and I really loved being a plein air painter, so I went painting with all these great people, and I learned a lot because they taught me, you know, so.
Everybody taught each other.
Yes, they
Yes,
did.
they really did. This was never a me kind of thing. It was always everybody, yeah.
And I have a beautiful watercolor over our fireplace. We sit in our living room. We keep the fire going 24/7 in the winter. And there's your beautiful watercolor. It looks like the Rocky Mountains. It's very colorful. Yours.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
I got it at an auction years and years ago.
Oh,
And I have a wealth of artists from the early days all the way through. So it's been a blessing. But Landy came to town, and she just retired from a very, she had quite a career in the nursing field. And one of the things she did was she would advance people's careers. I mean, she'd deal with her nurses and help them to do as best as they could. Well, she saw me, you know, and here I am, really basically just had been a mom, and so she asked me to be the vice president, and I went to the board meetings. I learned so much as we dealt with preparing to build the building. I mean, it just, the people that I met in this art center have done so much for me, and it's the joy of my life, so. But Landy, I'll never forget her, and I loved her so much, and I wish she was still with us, because she gave her all, every single day. She asked me to be president. You know, I didn't even think I could be vice president. There wasn't that much to it. But I knew being president, she worked every single day. There wasn't a day she took off. And we're here, you know, in large part, I think, because of her, so I honor her.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruth. Arlene Hecht, would you like to?
I'm a very sentimental person. I spent many, many hours with Polly Eggleston down in the basement at the poorhouse. She was my first sculpture teacher, the most generous person, and left such an impression on me and enlightened me beyond measure. I have to say that I kept taking classes here since the 70s. I don't know, maybe 20 years. I was always there. I was always taking a class. I went through all of the faculty people, the most generous brilliant faculty. I was so privileged to have that opportunity. I just couldn't get enough of it. This is an untapped resource. I didn't even know that I had anything to do with art, but it all grew and it all stemmed from that wonderful art guild. And I made so many friends. And it inspired me to the point where I became an art professional. And I began to be successful with my own sculptures. My paintings were not as terrific. But anyway, I loved to paint. It was my first love. And I had many wonderful teachers here who started me off. And it just carried me through to a wonderful art career that changed my whole life. And when my husband passed away at a very young age, he was 55, I was 50, I said, well, what am I going to do to show my children that life goes on? I opened Gallery 333. I really didn't know how I was going to do it. I had to put on all my money into it, which wasn't that much. And I don't think I ever made it back. But, you know, it was a labor of love. And I showed the work of so many of my teachers. And anyone from the Art Center they were all wonderful artists because they were so well taught. I love this place. I can't say enough about it. It just made a whole life for me, which I've tried to share, you know, with so many other people to get them interested in the arts and to give new artists an opportunity to get started. That was my favorite thing to do for 27 years at Gallery 333. It didn't matter if they had a whole big long resume, of course it always helped, but that isn't what I looked at. I looked at the person and the talent and the desire. And I took a lot of unknown people who were so talented, who would not have had a chance to be seen anywhere. And you know, Dale and I go back to the early days with Polly and his play classes, and they were wonderful. I mean, we had very rare experiences here. I can't say enough about it. It changed my whole life.
In addition to that, when you say the teachers, being a teacher myself, once you are a teacher, you are always a teacher,
Right.
period. And so those of you who have taught or are teaching, that never changes. And that's what these people at the Guild, the teachers that you had there, they continue to teach.
Duly inspired by them. In fact,
Exactly.
when I opened my own studio, and I did do some teaching for 20 years in my studio.
Exactly.
It was the most wonderful experience. I missed it so much when I stopped. You know, it was just, you learn so much from each other.
Absolutely.
The spirit is just beyond words. Can't thank you all enough. And Laura is the best.
Yes.
Thank you, Arlene. And now we're going to go to the other Arlene, Arlene Cloninger. Do you want to say anything?
Well, I've heard, I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm just reliving everything. And I have not too much to add, but I had so much encouragement there that I knew I couldn't stop, so I just kept going, and I'm still going. And I learned so much from everybody as I peeked around on everybody else's easel. You know, I just walked around and learned what everybody else was doing. And it was a big thing in my life, and it still is, and so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Barbara, do you want to say anything? No, you're going to pass.
Listen, thank you.
Okay. Joan Valley, do you want to pipe up at all? Joan, I'll just say that Joan was taking classes, I think with Beverly Edwards, and then Beverly Edwards said, well, why don't you go ahead and teach the silk screening class? So Joan was teaching silk screening in the 70s in the old poorhouse. And so long career with the Artists Guild and Art Center. Vicki, did you want to say anything?
not really, I'm just an art appreciator. But
Yes.
if I remember right, my children did take pottery in the old poorhouse. And also, just a shout out for Carolyn Partan, who, she was not an artist, but her husband loved painting. And so after he died, she made it her job to make sure that the money was raised to have the art center. And she's still not an artist, but she's certainly an art appreciator.
Yes. We stand on the shoulders of so many.
Yes.
Pam Poloni, did you want to say something?
I took classes back when it was in the poorhouse, and Cliff Stubbs was one of my teachers, and I really enjoyed some of the just pencil drawing and portrait, and I had two little boys that I did try to do portraits of after taking Cliff's class. And when I saw the exhibit at the opening, I realized I should have put this in, because Cliff was pretty imaginative. This is the Wing Pond Bogs where right now the bike path goes through. And he put the train on the tracks and imagined what it was like when the steam train would go. And anyway, I wanted to show it to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice. Thank you. He was a master with a pencil. I mean,
Yeah.
he was like a
I
magician.
love those classes.
He was a wonderful drawer, yeah.
I still sketch myself.
You said Clifford Stubbs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got several of his drawings as well.
He was quite
About the
incredible.
art sales.
Is it pastel?
That's a
watercolor?
treasure. That's such a treasure.
Must be, I think it's
Oil painting.
Yeah.
Yes, the painting.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you for
right.
sharing that.
When we do have a piece by Cliff on the wall of a
Yes.
beautiful
Yes.
tree,
Yeah.
and that's Dale Carol Teal lent that one to us, which she bought at one of our auctions. Our auction comes up again in June this year. It's a great place to buy pieces at a good price by local artists. Did either of you two gentlemen want to add anything?
No, just wanted to thank you all for your remembrances and for your stories. It's really lovely to hear for myself and my brother. Edie Bruce was our grandmother.
Oh.
Okay. I guessed that.
We were wondering what the connection was.
Which,
Okay.
David or Richard?
Richard is our dad.
Okay.
Great, I'm so glad you were able to make it.
Yes.
Did you have a long way to journey to get here?
No,
Okay, you live locally?
Yeah, we've just been staying at the house in Woods Hole, so it's been a time to really remember and just kind of absorb, Edie's spirit and John's spirit, and she makes it all more meaningful to hear from you all today, so thank you so much.
She is great, Edie. Nice.
Thank you.
Something else.
And I see Bonnie in the back. Bonnie, did you want to share any memories?
No, I had a couple jewelry classes with Bernie Kelly, which was my introduction to the poorhouse. And then I had to work full-time. I was in glass. I did large commissions in leaded glass for a living. And I've been a member ever since the inception of this lovely facility. It is the absolute magical place. In at least a 200-mile radius of better than anything else that's out there. And everybody who has volunteered and participated has really helped make it that magical place. So I'm glad that I'm still a member and enjoying it every bit as much, and will continue to do so.
Thank you, Bonnie. And the gentleman next to you, did you have anything to add, sir?
No.
No, you're all set. I did want, Ruth has something,
I
yes.
just wanted to ask if anybody remembers Polly Montgomery. You do, because I bought the little angel that's hanging in the window. When I first joined, I went in, it was at a Christmas sale, and there were about 10 of them. They were $10 a piece. And I loved that little angel. And I said, well, I know that she was part of the center from the past before me. So if you had anything to say about her, I think that she was quite a
Not really, I quarter with her at her house.
Okay, was she from Woods Hole? Is that where she was from?
Well, they had a house there.
They did, yeah.
On a high road, I think it was.
Okay, wow. I've sure got a wonderful art collection, thanks to all the auctions and, you know, just.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of things from the auctions too.
I have
Arlene?
a PS.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention Beverly Edwards. She was a giant.
Yes.
Everyone knows who she was. She was so multi-talented, there wasn't anything she couldn't do and do it so excellently. I had the wonderful opportunity to take a course of hers, which was like a potpourri. It was an introduction to all of the art forms that you could study. I never experienced anything so inspiring as that class. It exposed me to penning, pastel, drawings, all the painting media, you name it. She knew it all so well, and she was able to devote a class to each, wonderful technique. And of course, we couldn't master them. It was just a smattering, but it was an exposure, and it was certainly something that would inspire anybody to want to pursue one of those. Even one would be wonderful. But I always wanted to try everything. So I was a jack of all trades and master of none, until I finally concentrated on the sculpture. But it took me a long time to narrow it down because I just loved all of it. So I think that she had quite a legacy. I'm just saying it's my personal experience, but I'm sure that it happened to everyone who ever encountered her.
And we had Beverly Edwards, Edie and John Bruce, and 20 other people were in our Founders Show last January. And so we follow it up with this show with the early members. And these are people involved in the 70s and 80s. And that first show was people involved in the 50s and 60s. Edie and John were there, Beverly Edwards, Bud Carey, many of the names that have been mentioned here. I did want to say that I did do a little history of the Guild that's back there, and people can pick up one of those. And then this is a list of every artist in the show. If people want a copy of that, is back there as well. And one of our current artists did little stones with the Artists Guild painted on it. You're welcome to take one. There are refreshments back there. Please have what you like and bring some home to your significant other. Eat, drink, hang out, chat. We still have plenty of time. So, chat with each other and get to know each other again. I'm just so glad everyone was able to come. And it's great to honor everyone who has been involved over the years. So thank you so much.
But one other thing I not to mention was when I was part of the Guild, back as a manager, running off the schedules, all of the classes and all these schedules on the mimeograph machine in the attic of the old poorhouse. I said, I can still smell the
Yeah, I taught junior high school down in the DC area. I can still smell that mimeograph machine.
Oh, your head.
So enjoy, connect, chat with each other, share memories, and thank you for coming.
You're still actively doing art? I didn't know it was recent or something you had. Enjoying the house? He should build a garage, but instead he got all this tubing and he made what he calls it a yurt. I wanted he had to he wanted to be able to work on his boats in a sheltered environment. So there's not many people living on the street to complain. I don't think he got a building permit. Okay. So they're doing fine. It's a lovely place. They were lucky to get it. Yeah.